The pilots travel to the flight line for one of the most difficult tasks of the championship, the pylon run. The object is to break the ribbon stretched between the pylons without the machine touching the ground. The pylons are placed in a staggered pattern. There are 4 gates with the following heights: 10 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet, and 2 feet. Each gate is 25 feet wide. The gates are 150 feet apart. The pilots will attempt to fly through the gates and cut the ribbon stretched between each gate without touching the pylon. A pilot will be disqualified if a pylon is touched. Scoring is accomplished by counting points for each ribbon broken. The first ribbon scores 2 points, ribbon 2 scores 8 points, ribbon 3 scores 3 points, and ribbon 4 is worth 12 points. A pilot loses 14 points if the ground is touched while flying the task. This is the pilot's view on approach to the first gate. Break the ribbon and turn toward gate 2, but be smooth on the controls. After 2, correct as necessary, and head toward gate number 3. If you are out of line for gate 4, it is better to skip it than to risk losing points by touching the ground. John Conti is flying an PowerChute. Unlike the American machines, an PowerChute has hand steering and a foot-controlled throttle. To be effective at this task, most pilots strive to maintain a consistent height and speed through the pylons. The next pilot is Rick Little from Clinton, Iowa. By maintaining a consistent height and speed, Rick makes navigating through the pylons look easy. Another of the group from Australia is Stephen Conti. With hand steering and subtle throttle inputs, Stephen tightly controls the speed and height of his aircraft. Stephen slows his machine to near stall speed as he arrives at the last ribbon. Scott Hughes from Texas is a very skilled pilot. Scott is consistent enough on the controls so that the altitude of the machine through the staggered pylons changes very little, making for a fine run. Jim McClay has a slightly different approach. Jim chooses to modify the altitude of his machine for each pylon. This is a more difficult method than maintaining a single altitude, but Jim is able to pull it off without a hitch. Pilot number 44, Norm Burley, cruises through the course collecting ribbons and points at each pylon. This is Matt Cummings' first year at the championship. His kart is moving a lot, requiring him to make constant heading corrections. After collecting ribbons at the first 3 pylons, Matt decides to not risk losing points and skips the 4th pylon. This is Australian Trevor Wills in an PowerChute. The Aussies maintain that the parachute hand controls and foot pedal throttle of the PowerChute provide better feedback, allowing them to precisely control the aircraft. After watching the Aussies fly, it might be difficult to argue against their point. Alex Lowe is a smooth operator, flying through the task, seemingly on a joyride. He keeps the flying platform steady, collects the ribbon, and moves on. It seems that the altitude of the machine does not change as defending champion Clyde Poser cuts ribbons at each of the pylons. Clyde has been a commercial pilot for 32 years. He is a captain for Hawaiian Airlines and pilots the Seattle to Honolulu run. I had never